I wanted to offer a quick little update here and a few tips for creating your introduction for this week. I am taking last week's example for the body paragraphs and working from that file. I'll provide you with my completed introduction afterwards. I'm actually going to want my body paragraphs in here so I can reference them. And so it's okay if you include them in the document. It's also okay if you end up deleting them out of the document. But I advise that when you're working through it, you at least have it open to reference. I'm also going to start with my prompt still here, but at the end of this, I'm actually going to take the prompt out because I should not need the prompt anymore after that. I have a few goals that I'm going to be working towards. So, one is that I, of course, need to write an effective introduction that ends in a thesis statement. So, this thesis is already completed. I'm just going to get rid of where it says thesis. I see that I have an issue with my paragraph. It's not normal indentation. So I need to change that real quick. There we go. So now I have kind of a paragraph style. And I know this is going to be the last sentence of my introduction. So it's all about how to get to that thesis statement. That's what I'm going to be asking myself. And there's a few components in that process. So I am just going to kind of make myself a list here. I need a hook. And then I need to introduce the topic. And then I need a transition. And I know that each of these may end up being one sentence. It may end up being a couple of sentences. I can't do all of these in any order because, like, for example, being able to do the transition, I have to have introduced the topic first. But I don't necessarily have to do the hook first to be able to introduce the topic, if that makes sense. So if I'm stuck on the hook, I can go ahead and start here. And I think that that's what I'm going to do in this case. I am going to give you a very basic, straightforward way of approaching this. So I'm going to read my prompt, write an essay focusing on why you're an educator. And I am going to bring up it in a general way, talking about everyone. So I could say something like educators all have unique reasons for getting into the educational field. Okay, that would work for me. And you see that I am bringing up the idea of becoming an educator in general. But that may be too focused. I may realize that it's a little jarring to just start talking about educators. So maybe I need to talk about jobs in general. And then get into the idea of being an educator. Let's see. Professions lead people to them in a variety of ways, comma, and education is no different. Educators all have unique reasons for getting in the educational field, comma, but many have to do with helping others and making a positive impact in the world. Okay, so I have kind of the meat of my introduction in the sense that I'm going from that super broad point into something specific here. And you can see I almost have transitioned, but not quite. If I go straight from many have to do with helping others and making a positive impact in the world. Becoming an educator is a good profession because educators help others have good schedules and require self-improvement. That should be require. I see a typo there. There's something missing, and that's, if I look at my prompt, it's supposed to be about myself. So my transition needs to bring up the idea of my own personal reasons. My personal journey and rationale for teaching falls right in that category. Okay. And then I see I have a pretty good transition there, so I can knock my thesis statement up. And I'm almost finished with my introduction. I now need some sort of hook. And if I see how I started to introduce this, I'm talking about jobs in general. Hooks can come in a variety of ways. You can ask a question, you can have some sort of facts, you can have some sort of philosophical statements. So I think I'm going to go with some sort of philosophical statement or something to think about. My word of warning to you is to not just use a question like rephrasing your prompt into a question, because that's lazy and it doesn't really add anything. So for example, if I said, why would someone become an educator? It's a little too on the nose. So maybe I just want to bring up the idea of, tell you what, I'll give you an example of a good question. So instead of something like, why would someone become an educator? It's, who would work a job where people often complain of not enough compensation, so that's pay, high levels of stress, and of a lack of general respect. Okay, so I used my rule of 3 here, right? I gave 3 different reasons for some negatives, and you're like, oh, I wonder what he's talking about. And then I see that I do need to adjust this a little tiny bit. Professions lead people to them in a variety of ways, and education is no different. Despite some negativity, maybe I need to say something like, all jobs have some downsides, but can be rewarding as well. Profession, there we go. Okay, so I have something that I like as an introduction. And if I look at the length, what am I? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 solid sentences here. And I still need one last thing to do. Okay, I can take out my prompt now. And it's time for me to give this a title. Okay, and what I don't want is the same thing like we were just talking about with the hook, where we said, like, why become an educator? Okay, we don't want something like that. That's a little too on the nose. We want something interesting, something more profound. So making a difference, that alone could be something decent. Teaching the world about making a difference. Okay, I like that one a little bit better. I am going to check my MLA formatting, so I should really put my name there. I've updated the date already to the due date for this particular assignments. And if I want to take out the rest of these right now, I can. But I think I'm going to leave them in. Next week, I'm going to have the conclusion at the end. And if I end up being able to take out my body paragraphs, then later on I'll have to put them back in. But this way I'm kind of slowly leading up. I'm getting close to seeing my full narrative essay completed. One last check I need to do. Well, I can refer to that checklist and go through it, but I know that I need to recheck my thesis statement and make sure that my 3 reasons match up. So I have helping others and helping others, having good schedules, having a good schedule, and constant self-improvement and being forever a learner. Those all match up, so I am now good and ready to submit. Hopefully seeing my process of writing here helps you with yours. I don't want you to stress about it too much. Just remember that I have a lot of practice with writing, so it doesn't take me a super long time to think about what I'm going to say, and that just comes with practice. Okay, so it may take you a little bit more time. Introductions and conclusions are tough in that there's not like a standard formula. Creativity goes a long way to making them good. Right? If you have any other questions, please put them on the question board, and I look forward to seeing your introduction soon. Thank you.